This is Katie.
And this is Derrick.
Welcome to the break room.
Yo, this is Derrick, and this is Katie in
the break room.
Wait, did you want to introduce yourself that time?
No, I didn't. I just wanted to bask in your light.
I always introduce us.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking.
What if
I
you
got
do it?
ahead of myself.
You do it this time. Go ahead.
I can't.
No, go ahead.
I can't do it like you.
No, but you can do it like you, though.
What up, everyone? It's Derrick and Katie. I don't know if I like it as much as yours.
Oh, but you didn't do it in the break room.
Oh, yeah. See? I already
Speaking of, we have a very interesting topic today. It's not called podcast management. It's called classroom management.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was podcast management, I'd be all over it. But classroom management is Katie's expertise.
I'm ready.
And so today we're going to talk about some tips, some tricks, some habits, some practices that will help teachers. Because we're in the break room now, right?
We're in the break room.
And in the break room, it's like, I got that kid that talks over me, that they won't sit down, they won't be quiet, they blah, 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 blah. I'm kind of foreshadowing to our question at the end of the...
Well, let's do the question now.
You want to do the question now?
I do. I want to mix it up. I'm feeling dangerous.
Here we go. So the question was, Katie, I can't seem to control my class. They talk over me, mock me, and I think they're never learning anything in my classroom, and I leave exhausted. But I kind of also want them to like me. How can I manage my classroom?
Well, you can't care if they like you.
Ooh, wait. Everybody wants to be liked.
Well, I get that, but they will love you.
Yeah.
By the end.
Okay.
But, I mean, you got to come in strong.
Ooh.
It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
Wait, what does that mean?
That just means, like, if you come in all kind of loose, like, I don't care if you have your phone. I don't care if you're up throwing paper at somebody's head. I want to be cool. No.
Is that your teacher voice?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know what that.
You transformed into a whole different person.
Oh, that was my, like, timid teacher voice that wants to be liked.
Okay.
But you can't.
What is the firm I don't care if kids like me voice? What voice is that?
I don't really know. Why you put me on the spot like 3 times in like 5 seconds?
What's the Coach Katie voice? Give me Coach Katie.
I don't know. You want teacher Katie? Like,
no, I'm in a gym. I'm coaching girls volleyball. I want Coach Katie voice.
I don't know. I think it's still going to be high pitched and whiny. So I'm going to be done with that. Next question.
Wait. The passive voice is the same as Coach Katie voice?
No.
That's Coach Katie right there. That was, I feel like coaches say stuff before they even know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
They be like,
Hit him hard, hit him big, hit him often.
Play his team. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Okay, bring it back.
Okay.
Classroom management.
Yes.
You said you can't be concerned if they like you.
Yeah. You got to just go in strong. Okay. So you cannot gain confidence from a 12-year-old. And so I think we've said that before on this podcast, but you have to believe that. Like, you put on your armor, you walk in, and you should have procedures in place. So how to sharpen a pencil, how to get up and turn an assignment in, like, you should have procedures in place. And the kids should know those procedures. So I begin my year before we get into any of the experience lessons, the gamification, the things, when it gets good. I train my class for 6 to 9 weeks. And it is like things by October, things start flowing like water.
Wow.
And so I address everything that comes up. First day of school. Hey, everyone, I'm Miss Kinder. Yeah. We're going to do this in this class. Here's your syllabus, blah, blah, blah. And if somebody tries to talk over me on day 1, I would say, oh my gosh, it's Love and Logic. Okay. It's, Jim Fay, Love and Logic. And it might not work for everyone, but I like to say, oh, Derrick, gosh, you don't know this yet about me in my classroom, but we don't talk out of turn. So if you have something to say, if you'll raise your hand, that'll be great. Or I do the same thing, like, oh, you don't realize that we're not working in groups today. We're going to get there maybe on Friday, but right now we're doing individual work. So you'd have 0 reason to be talking to anybody in this class. And then I just like smile and we just move on.
Yeah.
And it works. And I have to remind them, and then I have to remind them often after a break, after a weekend. And they just start, I mean, they walk into my room, and it wouldn't matter if it was chaotic in the hallway or they were in somebody else's class. They know my expectations when they walk into mine.
Right.
That doesn't mean crazy stuff isn't going to come up.
Right.
So that's what you have to do.
So number one thing, you can't be overly concerned of whether or not they like you.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, you say it's very difficult to put the genie back in the bottle. And the best way to do that is establish procedure from the jump.
From the jump.
Yeah.
I mean, I use music. I incorporate instrumental music and beach waves. And they almost know, like, you know, if they have a journal to do at the beginning of the hour, or they're doing something. I always have something. You teach bell to bell. Mm-hmm. You never say free time. You teach bell to bell. And so if they have a journal to write or a question or a prompt, they're always going to have something on the board.
Right.
So like when they walk in, they're not going to be like trying to, you know, talk to their buddy or be on their phones or anything like that. Like as soon as you walk into my room, and I'll even like, if I'm out in the hall greeting kids, what's up? And then I look over and somebody's just like not doing what they're supposed to.
Right.
I can look at them and make eye contact and be like, I make the pencil like.
You should be writing. You should be doing something. That's the sign.
Yeah. And if I have to say their name, like if I'm like Jalen.
Yeah.
I'm making a writing.
Yeah. It's the pen on paper. It's the writing on my hand signal.
Right.
Right.
And okay. Just loving them enough to have high expectations. Right. And you can't be the teacher that's like, oh, don't tell anyone, but I'll let you play on your phone. Or don't tell anyone, but I'll let you have your earbuds, or you can have free time, or no.
Yeah.
No.
So in our desire to have classroom management, is the opposite of classroom management classroom chaos?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for a young teacher that comes into your classroom, you're a vet, and you have different tables, and they're rotating, and you've gamified, and people are in costumes, and there's the windows are covered and blacked out, and there's candles, and there's poetry and hot chocolate, and you have this skeleton, and you're putting it on people's mouth, telling them to be quiet. And
love that skeleton.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if I walk into your classroom to a new teacher, this may look like chaos, but you know exactly what you're doing. So how does it look like chaos to one teacher, but it's absolutely classroom management to another?
I mean, I'd push back on that. It doesn't look like chaos.
It doesn't?
No. You could come in, if my kids are in stations or missions or whatever, and they're moving every 15 minutes, there's procedures for group work.
Okay.
Like you can't cross pod top.
Okay.
Everybody has, and like if I count down and go, okay, rotate to the side of me, let's go. They know that even in their rotation, they cannot talk to their friend in another group.
But they're not sitting in seats facing the front.
Right.
All attention on me.
Right.
So I'm saying, if I'm a young teacher and I've been taught desk, pencils, pen, eyes up, phones away, you look at me, I got all the information, I'm writing on the board, I turn around,
right.
To some people, that's order. That's what a classroom is supposed to look like.
Well,
and that's not the way your classroom looks.
Well, that's true. But sometimes it does. Sometimes on the first day of school, I put them in alphabetical order. And I walk around, I talk to each kid. I ask them how they're doing, how to pronounce their name. Names are important, what they go by, all of that. And then if it's an individual assignment, I'm going to have the beach waves or the waterfall instrumental. And that means we're working individually. And then when I feel like they kind of get it, then we'll go to group work procedures. Okay. When you're in groups, this is what's going on. And you can't do this and you can't do that. And whatever.
Right.
So then they know. And do I have to remind them? Of course.
Of course.
But I would do it in a fun way with my skeleton hand. But they also know I mean business.
Right.
One of my kids said last semester, Miss Kinder don't play. And I was like, I do too. And they were like, that's not what I meant.
Right.
Like, you ain't playing when it comes to our education. I'm like, weedable.
Yeah.
Which is true.
And that's from a kid. That's from a student.
Like Miss Kent, like I'd get a new student and like almost the class would regulate them.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how you want it.
Yeah. Like, hey, Miss Kinder don't play. She's weird.
Yeah.
And she's kind of cool, but also she's weird and she'll call you out.
So how important is it to have peer regulated classrooms? as a part of your classroom management style?
Mm,
Do you count on that? Is that a part of when you're talking about how my classroom looks? Do you account for peer regulation?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes some time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes the class gets it by October. Sometimes it's November.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's January.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be like a safe space. And so I'm the facilitator and I'm the classroom teacher and I'm also the boss. And and I don't if a kid freaks out because something happened at home or because his girlfriend broke up with him on the bus or whatever, and he freaks out in my class. I mean, that's not on the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But I know what to do when that happens.
Yeah. But what part do the peers play? Do the students play in regulating your classroom and managing your classroom?
Well, I think that, I'll say to them over and over again, I love you too much for that. I love you too much for that. I love you too much for that.
Yeah.
And so I think my kids start to believe that.
Yeah.
And they should. Mm-hmm. And so if I get a new student or something happens, hey, Miss Kinder says.
Yeah.
And if they happen to be the leader in the group, I'm like, okay, leader, get your group together.
Right.
And they'd be like, guys.
Yeah.
And
I've heard you talk about that as far as cross-pod communication. Yeah, they'll shut it down.
Yeah.
One of the quotes that I've heard, that's a community quote is you can't legislate community. Right. And it's one of those things where people try to enforce things from the top. And we see all the time that the most successful reinforcement of rules and legislation and laws is when the community buy into it. Right. So it's I'm not going to call the police. I'm going to check you as a neighbor until you put your trash can up. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to call the police. I'm going to check you and your kids. Hey, man, stop playing in my yard. Or, that type. I bought into community and accountability. So I'm not going to call law enforcement. Even though there's laws and rules, I'm not going to involve them because I can just come talk to you.
Right.
And to me, it feels like an effective way, that your classroom is managed when you set it so much that you've created a safe space, that you've gained the trust and the respect of your students. And not only are you enforcing it, not only are you enforcing it from the top, but they're reinforcing it among themselves.
Right. Okay, so this is maybe TMI, but I had too much coffee one day, a couple days, and I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because, it keeps you regular.
Yeah.
And then I had diarrhea.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Mm-hmm. And I had to run away from my class.
Right.
First hour, the bell had I had to go.
Right.
And so I walked back in, and this is probably March. I walk back in, and my kids are just, the instrumental music's playing, and they're doing their journal, and they're just, because they've been trained to do so.
Yeah.
Or they've bought into, and this is how we behave in here, or she loves us too much for that kind of thing. So I agree. They have to buy in, because if they don't buy in, they don't care.
Yeah. And then we get the source of our question today, which started out our podcast, is they talk over me and they don't listen and they mock me and make fun of me. And I feel like they're never learning. And I have this environment that I want to create, but I also want them to like me. Right. And so the inverse of that, which is how we started our podcast today, is you can't really be overly consumed and involved with them liking you.
Right. And I don't yell unless somebody's in bodily harm. And that's usually never inside my classroom.
Right.
That's out in the hall or out in unstructured areas.
Mm-hmm.
But I smile and I say it very direct and from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they need a reminder. Let's say Derrick yells at Angela across the room, oh, you already know, whatever. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, Derrick, did you forget? Is there something you need? What can I do to help you? And Derrick's like, oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And they learn. And they know who loves them and who doesn't. They know who runs a tight ship and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
They're smart.
They know. So what I think about is because I can feel the bell about to ring. I can feel it. I know these episodes go so quickly. When I think about the benefits of having a healthy classroom management, I think of learning takes place when your classroom has management procedures in place. Kids feel safe when you have a management classroom in place. What are some other things that happen when your classroom is healthy and you've managed it and there's peer regulation? What are some other things that take place outside of learning and safety?
Right. Well, I think community, like you said, you start to feel like a family.
Yeah.
There's no, you're in this group and I'm in this group, or I'm an athlete and I'm a band member, or I'm a cheerleader and you're this. There's not that. And it's designed that way.
Yeah.
It should be by the time we hit October, November. By December, we're doing some poetry that like really is hard for some of my middle schoolers to do. It's called the Poem of Life. And they have to like write down something difficult. It's like a journal. Write down something difficult they've been through, you know, journal about it. And then from there, they craft a poem that I end up putting into a competition. And the ones that usually win and get in the book are the ones that are super like heartfelt, and they're writing a poem about how their grandfather passed away, and or their dog, or their, you know, or they're moving to a new school and all those feelings. And I have kids bawling.
Yeah.
And I will have, you know, somebody get up, get the tissues, you know, clap them on the back, saying it's going to be all right. Here's tissues. I feel the same way. And we're just in there together as a family. Like, we've all been through hard things.
Yeah, yeah. And what I hear you saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is like classroom management, like I heard you say running a tight ship. That doesn't mean that fun doesn't take place on a tight ship, and that we're not productive on a tight ship, and that community and relationship isn't developed on a tight ship. To me, running a tight ship or having effective classroom management simply means that I've set in some barriers and some boundaries, and everything can happen inside of this safe space. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. We're all valued. We're all members of the same family.
Yeah. And I think that's important. So teachers, if you're listening to this, I know you're getting ready to go back to your classrooms, but classroom management is super important. On the inside, on the other side of classroom management, you have a safe place, you have community, relationship, you have boundaries, you have learning. And I think that's important for both students and teachers.
I love it.
Is that cool?
And I think you would go. I think you should go and watch other people who've done it and they do it well.
Yeah. And that's the instructional part, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you used to do that.
Yeah.
You still do it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've heard Katie say, I'll come to your classroom, inbox me, I'll show up.
Yeah.
She'll do it.
I will.
That's serious. All right. I think that's the bell. Thanks for hanging out. Pull your chair out. Close the door behind you. And this is Derrick and Katie in the break room.